I was born in Little Mexico, El Barrio, as we used to call it, here in Dallas. My parents are from San Luis Potosí and Nuevo León. So I'm first generation. My brother and I were first generation, going to college and also being born here. So I grew up in a Mexican family, Mexican culture, Mexican barrio, in a very segregated neighborhood in those days. One of the oldest Mexican American communities in Dallas. I went to public schools in Dallas, DISD. I went to Travis Elementary, I went to Cumberland Hill, I went to Spence, and then later I graduated from North Dallas High School. So I grew up in the same neighborhood all my life that I lived in. That's where I grew up, and that's where I gained my academic skills and abilities through that nurturing of family, a nurturing of culture, nurturing of el barrio, and then leading to me going to SMU later. But here we are again, you know. And so lo que ocurrió en ese caso, 1982-83, school's about to start, same time, July, August, and all of a sudden this issue came up that the kids that were undocumented couldn't attend DISD. And Dr. Estes was like, I got to abide by the law. And so I formed a committee made up of Jewish leaders and Catholic leaders, and we started meeting through LULAC in different churches and said, okay, what are we going to do when school starts? What are we going to do with these kids? Well, first of all, we got to get the numbers. Where are they? ¿Cuántos son? So we started in our own informal way getting numbers, and we identified 1,000 kids in that day, 1,000 undocumented families. And we said, okay, now what are we going to do? Well, let's put them in some schools that we create. And the diocese gave us Holy Trinity campus. The Baptist Church gave us a campus on Gaston. So we had 3 campuses. How about teachers? Well, let's go recruit some, part-time volunteer teachers that are qualified to teach. And then Dr. Estes heard about it, and he said, I'll give you all the textbooks, all the ones that we throw away every year, I'll give them to you. And he did it under the table. So we were in the paper every day. This task force is meeting, school is about to start, there's a court case going before the Supreme Court. And at that time I was working with the Dallas Chamber of Commerce. And I was in charge of Leadership Dallas and a couple of other projects. And one of my bosses, board member, called me and said, his name was Dave Fox and Jacobs, big home builder. He said, René, one of your board members wants to see you. I said, what is it? And I thought I was in trouble, because usually I would get in a lot in trouble for interviews, confronting people, as I still do. And I said, who is it, Mr. Fox? He said, it's Sam Bloom. And Sam Bloom owned the Bloom Advertising Company, which is one of the largest advertising companies in the country, based here in Dallas. They did all the advertising, and they were part of the family of the Zale family, very big Jewish family. And their office was there on 35. So I went to see Mr. Bloom, older man, and walked into his office, and he said, René, tell me what you're doing with all these immigrant kids. So I explained to him the strategy. We're going to set up these schools. Hopefully the Supreme Court's going to rule. I think we're going to win. Once we win, then those kids can go to DISD. But what are you going to do right now in the meantime? I said, we've got campuses set up, and we're recruiting and putting kids there. Where are you getting the money? I said, we're asking for money. We don't have any money. And he reached into his drawer, pulled out his checkbook. He said, how much do you need to keep you going until the Supreme Court rules? And I said, about $20,000. And he wrote out a check for $18,000. He said, here's a check. Go pay your teachers. Do what you need, supplies, and get it going. And this is anonymous. Don't tell anybody that I did that. And I said, why? Why are you doing this, Mr. Bloom? He said, I'm a Russian Jew. My parents were immigrants. I understand what immigrants are going through right now. So you don't have to sell me on it. Wow. And I said, okay.
Santos Rodriguez.
A very young, tragic young man who was killed, was murdered, very tragically many years ago, 1973. And I led the demonstrations on the cause of why he was killed, and he was kind of the rallying point, the start of really the civil rights period among the Chicano community in Dallas.
What's El Barrio?
El Barrio was where I grew up. Those were my roots, where my mother and my dad gave us our work ethic. I never told the story, but my mother was the president of the PTA at Travis Elementary before it was attacked, and without speaking any English. And she was a dynamic leader. So the barrio was all of that. Growing up in that neighborhood, around Turtle Creek and Pikes Park, and running around in the streets. Later seeing President Kennedy drive through in front of our house on Cedar Springs and Turtle Creek right before he was assassinated. Going to those schools, to North Dallas, to Spence, playing baseball at Riverside Park. That to me is the barrio.
Okay.
La Familia is everything. To me, it's everything. It's our nuclear family. It's our extended family. It's all about who we are, what we bring to the table. It's part of our culture. It's part of what we do, how we respect each other, and it creates that legacy.
Looking back at all the work that you've done, all the services, all these decades of services that you've given, what do you want your legacy to be, Mr. Martinez?
My legacy, of course, my children, but more importantly, my children to know and my grandchildren to know what I've done, and to carry some of them to carry that on. But my legacy is the dozens and dozens of people that I have mentored, starting with students in my classrooms when I've taught at different colleges, parents that I've trained and later became students and have become teachers, young administrators who were teachers and now campus leaders who I still talk to them and give them consejos. To me, that's the legacy. Parents will call me or see me. I had two of them that called me yesterday out of the wild blue yonder and said, thanks for your help. And to me, that's the best legacy or gratitude that I can get. Money can't pay for that. It's knowing that you've had an impact on families. And that's what I think we've got to continue doing. The legacy, it's just not a name on a building or a school. It's what you continue doing with others. I challenge young people to stay involved, to get involved. If I helped you and your family, you got to reciprocate. You got to continue that, and that's part of the legacy.